You're watching NBC4, Washington's news leader. Live in HD, this is News 4 at 4.
The no-fly list. A new policy has now been set for airlines after that attempted car bombing in New York's Times Square. The stepped-up efforts that are now in place aimed at preventing suspected terrorists from taking flight. Good afternoon, everybody. Welcome to News 4 at 4. I'm Jim Antley.
I'm Pat Lawson-Muse. From now on, airlines are going to have to check the no-fly lists more often. They will have to look at those lists within 2 hours of being notified that they've been updated.
This all surrounds the fallout after the man accused of taking a car bomb to Times Square over the weekend was able to board a plane for Dubai hours after being added to the list. Working our big story live this afternoon from Capitol Hill, News 4's Steve Handelsman. Steve?
Jim and Pat, thanks. Good afternoon. It sounds like a no-brainer, doesn't it? I mean, who thought that the U.S. government could rush a specific name to the no-fly lists, and the airlines weren't even required to look at the list more than once every 24 hours? Well, that's been changed now. The hope is that might help a little bit. Meanwhile, investigators here in Washington and in New York say so far they've been unable in their questioning of Faisal Shahzad to identify any particular terrorist training camp or group that he attended, which, if they could find the name, might help them answer a key question. Was he sent to attack Times Square, or was it his idea? Faisal Shahzad has admitted to investigators he got bomb-making training last summer in the part of Pakistan run by the Taliban. But Shahzad's attack was amateurish, and the White House today took credit, saying terrorist leadership's been under increasing U.S. attack.
That has led them to smaller, less sophisticated attacks using less capability.
Was Shahzad in the U.S. since the 90s a recent convert or a sleeper agent? Like accused Fort Hood gunman Nidal Hassan, born in the U.S., Shahzad was an American citizen as of last year, a budget analyst, middle class. That made it easy for him to allegedly buy what he needed to fit in and attack. Terror analysts are worried.
Americans going out for training and then coming back to attack America. Our national security infrastructure is not in place to deal with that threat as the primary threat.
What about the near failure of the no-fly list in place for years? Shahzad was arrested on an Emirates airliner more than 10 hours after his name was listed. Emirates had not checked. Airlines only had to every 24 hours.
This is a flaw in the current configuration of the no-fly list, which is in the process of being corrected.
The new rule as of today requires airlines to check every 2 hours. That's the easiest fix, Jim. A lot of experts here say much tougher will be finding and detecting American citizens who decide to become terrorists. Back to you.
Steve Handelsman live on Capitol Hill. Steve, thank you. President Obama continues his search today for the next Supreme Court justice, and we could know his pick in the coming days. Earlier this week, the president interviewed federal judge Diane Wood in the Oval Office. Wood is at least the fourth finalist for the seat being vacated by Justice John Paul Stevens. He announced last month his plans to retire this summer. You may remember Wood interviewed with the president last year for the Supreme Court seat Sonia Sotomayor now holds.
New at 4, a former Arlington soccer coach has been arrested, accused of sexually assaulting at least one child. 47-year-old Luis Hoyle reportedly assaulted the child several times between 1999 and 2001. He's now being held on bond at the Arlington County Detention Center. Police say Hoyle coached soccer for the Crystal City Soccer Club between 1998 and 2003. The club served Oak Ridge Elementary and Gunston Middle Schools. Police believe there could be more victims.
Students at the University of Virginia are planning a memorial on campus tonight in Charlottesville in honor of a popular lacrosse player who was murdered. Yardley Love was found dead in her apartment Monday. Her former boyfriend, George Hughley of Chevy Chase, is charged with the crime. News 4's Kimberly Souters reports police are investigating allegations of a violent history between the suspect and victim.
There's no way that George Hughley would do something like that.
Those the very first thoughts in Michael Preston's head the moment he heard his childhood friend George Hughley was accused of murder.
it's just devastating. I mean, I can't imagine what his family's going through, and even worse, what the Miss Love's family's going through.
Time in court records devastating to both families. Hughley admitted he was involved in an altercation with Love, that he shook her and her head repeatedly hit a wall, that he kicked his foot through her bedroom door. Police found Love beaten, bloodied, and bruised. Some of Yardley's friends said Hughley threatened violence in text messages, but Preston never knew his friend that way. The last time the two were home together, Preston saw Hughley in Georgetown, and life seemed perfect.
He seemed happy. I mean, he was playing lacrosse for the University of Virginia, doing well. He's a senior. He's about to graduate. He was an anthropology major. He was seemingly living the dream.
It was Yardley Love's dream to play lacrosse at UVA. She wore number 1 there, as she did at her old high school, where every player is wearing Yardley's number to honor her. Her college academic advisor said Love was the quintessential Cavalier.
It's absolutely the epitome of the University of Virginia student. Thomas Jefferson would be proud to have such a young woman at his university studying. She just was lovely in every single way.
Hubeck also said Love will graduate from the University of Virginia. Kimberly Suiters, News 4.
Now, tonight's candlelight vigil is set for 8 o'clock. We'll have a live report from Charlottesville as students gather this evening, coming up a bit later on News 4 at 5. Pat?
Families of children victimized by gun violence are speaking out today against 2 bills introduced in Congress to change D.C.'s gun laws. The measures were introduced on Capitol Hill last week. They would repeal most of D.C.'s gun laws and loosen criminal penalties for D.C. residents found in possession of unregistered firearms. Today, parents of 2 of the teens killed in the mass shootings in Southeast Washington in March joined with city leaders to express their concerns about the bill to leaders on Capitol Hill.
What do we need AK-47s for in the District of Columbia? You can't hunt with it. You can't stop a robber with it. You can't do nothing with it. What is the purpose of a machine gun?
And they don't understand. They don't understand the violence in our streets, and they don't even understand what the law is in the District of Columbia. And so I'm here to say to Mr. McCain and Mr. Tester, I want to meet with you.
Hill lawmakers say they introduced the bill because the city hasn't done enough to comply with a 2008 Supreme Court decision ruling on firearms.
3 people were rushed to the hospital after a serious crash here in Montgomery County last night. A car ran into a pole here at the intersection of Game Preserve Road and Clopper Road in Gaithersburg. This is around 11 last night. Police are still piecing together exactly what led to the crash.
Well, it's been another gorgeous day. Boy, it's been a pretty nice week.
It has. But if you're feeling a bit sluggish, blame the pollen. Veronica's here with more on what we can expect. And those numbers are high, huh?
Those numbers are high, and that really is going to be my excuse today. Because, boy, it's, you know that commercial where the lady was, like, pulling herself down the street, you know,
okay,
it's a mattress commercial? That's me today.
That's you.
I feel like I'm dragging myself through the day.
You need a hand.
Exactly. The pollen count today is up to 356 grains per cubic meter, and pine right now is the biggest pollinator on our list, pine and then oak. Outside, you can see the great sky across the area. Yes, we've really gotten a chance to warm up today. 79, you folks in Montgomery County, Silver Spring, Maryland. 79 with a wind that's currently out of the south and southwest. And that's the wind that's going to hold temperatures up tonight, too. You can see we're at 83 in Sterling, 82 degrees currently in La Plata, but 78 in Annapolis in Leonardtown. Big area of high pressure right over us, so another great evening. Your good night forecast will dip to 69 by 11. Not that cool at all overnight. Last night we dropped to 59.
Yeah.
Wow.
It's a little chilly.
Yeah, just a bit.
Thanks, Veronica.
Well, after days of heavy rains and flash floods which swept some people to their deaths, the waters covering parts of the South are slowly starting to recede. But it will be weeks still, months, before the cleanup is finished from the weekend storms, which have killed at least 29 people across Kentucky, Mississippi, and, of course, Tennessee. Leanne Gregg has the latest.
All the hardwood flooring is going to have to be removed.
As high water begins to recede, the daunting task of cleanup and rebuilding begins.
And there's a water line in here.
Of thousands of residents forced to flee, many like Jeff Perry and his wife from West Nashville are returning to muddy floors, soaked furniture, and little left to salvage.
I got my wife and my son. Other than that, I don't have nothing.
For hundreds of miles, signs of the disaster. Floodwater so strong it forced this home from its foundation. In the Music City, roads filled with debris are resurfacing. The Opryland Hotel complex remains closed, and the Grand Ole Opry has moved its performances to another location. The Tennessee Titans football stadium is drying out, and officials report minimal damage even though its field was underwater. Hundreds of businesses remain closed while the Cumberland River, which winds through Nashville, recedes. Still above flood stage this morning, but well below its record crest Tuesday. The flooding is the result of weekend storms that brought torrential rains and deadly tornadoes to Mississippi, Kentucky, and Tennessee. For Marla Perry, more than she can bear. She doesn't want to rebuild here after losing so much.
I'm afraid next time it could be life.
Now the aftermath from a disaster that's affected thousands. Leanne Gregg, NBC News.
President Obama has authorized a major disaster declaration for 4 Tennessee counties, which will help people there get federal funds to clean up. More counties may be added later.
A new ash cloud from that volcano in Iceland is disrupting flights in the UK. These pictures from Iceland show a plume of ash reaching 18,000 feet. It's similar to the eruptions last month that closed European airspace for 6 long days. Airports in Scotland and Ireland had to shut down. Winds are expected to push this ash cloud out to sea tomorrow. So far, no London airports have been affected by this.
News 4 at 4 is just getting started. Disturbing discovery.
Up next at 4:15, we'll tell you what was found at a local funeral home that's prompted an investigation and that shut the business down.
Then at 4:30, the newest effort to stop that oil leak that continues to spew hundreds of thousands of gallons a day into the Gulf of Mexico.
Also at 4:45, the common mistakes that many women make when it comes to money.
Stay with us. We're live in HD on News 4 at 4.